On Wednesdays at 7, sharp as can be, Blue Gal's calling, come knit with me.
Hey guys, it's Blue Gal, and welcome to my podcast about knitting. I wasn't going to podcast on days that I'm on with Bob Seska and my husband for our political podcast, but it's the last Wednesday of the month, and I've only shown you knitting, I think, once this month. So regardless, I wanted to come on and show you what I finished in the last 2 weeks and share some thoughts about yarn and purging. I have been purging my yarn stash and my pattern stash and cleaning out my workspace, my crafting space. And I've learned a thing or two about yarn and what I want to knit, and I thought I would share that with you. But let's start with the finished objects. All of these need blocking, and I'm hoping to get them up on Ravelry before I post this podcast, but we'll see what happens. This is a little jacket that's going to a little 1-year-old boy that's finished. He's blocking, but I'm very happy with how it turned out. This is Knitcall, Knitcol, which is a washable DK weight self-striping yarn. And then I used Rowan DK washable wool for the solid button bands and cuffs. And very happy with how that turned out. It needs blocking, but it turned out really nice. This is for a little boy who's turning 1 next month, and I wanted to make a little something for his sister who will turn 3 in April. And I went through patterns and yarn, and I was just like not knowing what to do, and I didn't really have enough. I had some pink Knitcall, but I didn't have enough to make a toddler sweater. I have a baby sweater quantity of the Knitcall is what I have. So I made a hat. This is a tweedy. I held together single ply wool. This is Gina by Plymouth. Try to focus that on there. Gina. It's got pinks and purples and yellows and blues and greens. And then I used a fingering weight sock yarn that in a color called bubble gum. And when I ran out of the bubble gum, I grabbed some hot pink mohair scrap that I had for the top. And so that's just the pink and the pink went well together for the top of the hat. This will be a nice warm hat. They live up north, so this is appropriate for an October unbirthday present. Then I wanted to talk a little bit about this stash purge that I did. I wound up giving away 2 garbage bags of yarn and craft supplies to our ceramics and craft club here in Springfield, Illinois. They had a sale. I did not go to the sale. I just dropped off before the sale 2 garbage bags and said, bye. And doing that, in the process of doing that, I literally touched every skein of yarn I own. And I found and have a bin now of oddball yarn that will make hats for the most part. Hats and cowls, I would say. And I found, I started a hat with some of the oldest yarn I own. This purple, this is the hat. And this is kind of a slouchy beret style hat. I'll put it on because I think it's for me. This lavender yarn. Here we go. The lavender yarn I bought while I was an employee at a yarn store in Cambridge, Massachusetts called Wolcott and Company. And I worked there after my regular job in the evenings and on Saturdays and Sundays, and would work 13 days in a row and then have every other Sunday I had off. That's what I did in my 20s and early 30s before kids and everything else. But this lavender purple yarn I bought while I was an employee there. So it is over 30 years old. And it feels okay. I've saved all of my little yarn tags here. It's this one. It's GGH Classico. I don't even know if this yarn exists anymore. I doubt it. It is 70% superwash virgin wool and 30% acrylic. So it's in pretty good shape. Then I had an idea for what I was going to put in the center band of this hat. And this hat pattern, I based this hat on a pattern called Magpie, the Magpie hat. And the Magpie hat pattern is where you have a solid rib, and then you blend together scrap sock yarn and a single strand of mohair. And the mohair does help the variegated and different types of yarn that you're using blend. It's a blending effect. But what I did, and let me show you the pattern so you can see Magpie hat. This is by, who is that? Sorry, I'm so blind here. It is by, her last name is Ford, Debbie Ford. You know what? I've got my peepers right here. Why don't I use them? Here we go, Debbie Ford. Okay. Debbie Ford made this hat and put a big pom-pom on it. And she has in the pattern options for a ribbed bottom and in this case, a hemmed bottom. So you can make it either way. And then she has you do different strands of scrap yarn blended with a strand of lace weight mohair. And that lace weight mohair makes the yarn blend. What I did is I used Noro Silk Garden stranded with Rowan Kids Silk Haze. Two very high-end yarns for me. These are, again, this one was in Marianne's stash, I'm pretty sure. Certainly I got this from church. Somebody who passed away donated this to church. So I had one partial and one full skein of Kids Silk Haze. And then this, I have two skeins, and I had started a sweater for middle child in 2011 with this yarn that I never finished. So I have some frogging to do on that, but I had this much left to do the center part of this Magpie hat. And then what I did is after I did 5 rows of holding those together, I realized this doesn't match quite well enough. So I just started stranding in every 3 rows a plain row of the lavender GG, whatever it is, GGH Classico. And every 3 rows, I just put a strand of that without the mohair. Just stranded that in. And that makes it look like a planned inclusion of, there you go. You can really see how that, first of all, see how that mohair blends the colors of the yarn, and also how just including a single row stripe of the main color makes it look like a design and not something that just kind of barfs out there onto the hat. So I'm very happy with this hat, but it did teach me a lesson on use the good yarn. Go ahead and grab the good yarn and make something out of it. And I've been obviously not good about that. Setting it aside for something special or, and I'm not saying this hat is going to go in the charity bin. I'm probably going to wear it myself, but there's no problem with putting a nice hat in the charity bin. You know, you can just do that. And and know that it'll go to someone that appreciates it. And this yarn has been sitting in my stash. The purple's been sitting in my stash for 29 years, maybe. That's got to stop. So having purged a lot of my stash and made a big hat bin, that hat bin is there on probation. And until next year's craft sale, when I'm going to have to be harsh again. And my goal is to come up with another 2 garbage bags of yarn to get out of here. I noticed on Modern Daily Knitting, I can't remember whether it was Kay or her partner, who said something about Swedish death cleaning and said that, look, I had to do it and my kids are going to have to do it. They're going to have to clean out my stash. I'm not going to purge my stuff. Well, if this yarn sits in my stash for another 30 years, I'll be 92. And I don't want to have all of that around me into my senior years. I want to have a curated stash of yarn that I use and enjoy and have a purpose for it. That's just how I feel. I don't feel comforted by bins of yarn. Certainly not anymore. Whether I did before is immaterial. At this point in my life, I don't feel comforted by bins of yarn. So it's time to use it or lose it. And that's where I'm going with it. But I'm going to use the good yarn. I'm going to knit with good yarn and have fun with it. And, I wanted to talk about this scarf because it's right on that theme. This is Favorite Scarf Ever, which is a free pattern on Ravelry. Favorite Scarf Ever. I have knit this. This is the purl side. I've knit this dozens of times, really. I think at least 6 or 7 times I've knit this scarf. It's easy, and it, particularly with variegated yarns, makes a lovely chevron lace pattern, and it goes fast. And this is silk. This is variegated silk yarn, single ply, that over the years, it's gotten a little flat and a little bit pilly and a little bit felted. And I put it on today and I said, I'm going to show this on the podcast, but I can't remember knitting it. I was just like, did I knit this or did my sister-in-law knit this for me? I know my sister-in-law knit me a scarf for my wedding to her brother that was bright blue, and it was yarn that I had given her to just kind of get rid of it. It was on a cone, and it was not something I even knew what I was going to do with it. And she made me this beautiful lace scarf that was for my wedding. It turned out I used it for my wedding as my something blue. And it was kind of a show-offy thing, I thought at the time. Like, oh, I gave her this yarn I thought was junk, and she made it into a thing good enough for my wedding. You know, it's just, okay, nice. She's a great knitter. She really is. But anyway, I couldn't remember knitting this. And this is good yarn. This is silk. And this afternoon, I realized I knit this for my mother-in-law. And when she passed, I got it back. And that's why I didn't remember knitting it. It wasn't for me. It was something that I knit quickly and gave away, knowing when I knit it that it was for her. And I just tossed it off and gave it. The important thing was to give her something really nice and that I had made. And so this really nice yarn, I was more than willing to use the good yarn for my mother-in-law. Well worth it. But then I just forgot about it. And I didn't put it on Ravelry either. So this never went on Ravelry. I have no idea what the name of this yarn is or anything. When you knit the good yarn, also put it on Ravelry so you remember that you knit it, right? Oh, man. All right. So, yeah, knit the good yarn and fear not. This is a book I always read at the end of these podcasts. This is a lovely little book, not thick at all. It's called Art and Fear: Observations on the Perils and Rewards of Art Making. Don't forget that as a knitter, you are an artist. Tell yourself every day while you're knitting, I am an artist. I am an artist. And the yarn you own and treasure and utilize is your palette. No, I've said this many times, and I know I've said this at least once on this podcast. No one ever told Vincent van Gogh he had too much paint. No one ever told Picasso, you have too much blue paint. Look at all that blue. And then he did a blue phase of his paint, the blue era, the blue time that he was painting in blues. And, they're in museums throughout the world. So I am for curating my yarn stash, but I am not for guilt. But I wanted to read this little section that meant a lot to me. I had lunch today with a podcast listener, and if she's watching, hi, Bonnie. Bonnie said to me that she listens to the political podcast, and she said, I'm also a knitter, but I'm not very good, but I've learned that I don't have to be good. I don't have to be great at knitting. It's my hobby, and I don't have to be great at it. And I loved that, and it made me think of this passage from Art and Fear. Art is made by ordinary people. Creatures having only virtues can hardly be imagined making art. It's difficult to picture the Virgin Mary painting landscapes, or Batman throwing pots. The flawless creature wouldn't need to make art. And so, ironically, the ideal artist is scarcely a theoretical figure at all. If art is made by ordinary people, then you'd have to allow that the ideal artist would be an ordinary person too, with the whole usual mixed bag of traits that real human beings possess. This is a giant hint about art, because it suggests that our flaws and weaknesses, while often obstacles to our work getting done, are a source of strength as well. You're not perfect, and that's why you're an artist. And it's not to make perfect things. It's to create. It's to find a way around challenges to make something beautiful. And use the good yarn. I often think about this, that if you get some of the Noro magazines, there's always an article in Noro about spinning this yarn. And they always show a picture of one of the Japanese color designers or spinners or someone from on staff in Japan at Noro, who is critical to the making of whatever particular yarn they're talking about that month or that season. And it's so important. Excuse me. It's so important to remember. We talk about knitting mindfully, to remember that regardless of what yarn you're using, a human being had something to do with making that yarn. It doesn't not just hand spun, but commercial yarn as well. Someone at Rowan thought this color was going to be lovely, blended with something else, or used as a single lace weight garment. Someone at Plymouth Yarn Company thought that pink and yellow and pastel blue and so forth would make something fun, and it did. It made a toddler hat with some bubble gum stranded in. But a person decided on those colors. And that continuity from sheep or, from a petroleum product. I know that acrylic yarn is a petroleum product, but the people who come up with color and determine the final outcome of a weight of yarn and a color of yarn and a texture of yarn and how they're going to market it, and what sample patterns what pattern support there's going to be for that yarn, and getting knitters to knit samples for photographs to advertise that yarn, and the photographers and the magazine editors who put that picture in the magazine, and then you pick up the magazine and you're inspired to make something completely different because it's my yarn and it's my idea and I'm just going to make a baby hat out of it, right? So, and that's great, but there is a continuity of people and story and creativity from the very beginning, and sensing that continuity and connecting to it can make for a very mindful experience when you're knitting, and that means the world. All right, I hope you guys have a great week. I believe I will be back next week. I will be back next week because it will be October 1st, and I'll see you then. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
On Wednesdays at 7, sharp as can be, blue gals calling, come knit with me.